PTF and JK with you as part of the In the Money Media YouTube channel. We've got so much cool stuff on this channel right now. Everything you need for this year's Kentucky Derby. And the only way you're going to get all of it, folks, is if you subscribe to this YouTube channel and click that bell too for notifications so you never miss one. This is going to be one of the most fun ones, I think, to do, and one that people are going to come back to because we've had a lot of stuff talking about the top of the market here in this year's Kentucky Derby. But beyond that, and for your exotic wagers especially, there's some horses at really interesting prices. We're going to talk about 3 of them in this video. JK, where shall we begin the conversation?
Well, let's start with one who's not the longest of long shots. We'll get to the bigger prices a little bit later in this video, but just a touch. I think it'd be a very interesting horse for a lot of people. But Pete, you mentioned to me before we started the show, 16-1 in some of the foreign markets right now. I think it'll probably be a little bit shorter on the day, but we're still talking double digits. Some of the other horses we're going to talk about, I don't think those are horses that can necessarily win the Derby, but they're long shots that can get involved in your tries, supers, and maybe even underneath in your exacta. Just a touch feels like a horse that can actually win the race. I loved his progression. He's a lightly raced horse. His second in the bluegrass against Sierra Leone, who's likely to go off as the second choice, I think was very good and very progressive. And he's got that style that's going to put him into the mix. And if something goes wrong in the race with Fierceness, something goes wrong with Sierra Leone, just a touch could be right there at the 8th pole to inherit the lead.
Are you concerned at all, Jonathan, with him from a lack of seasoning standpoint, or can you just as easily argue that as a positive, that he's had so few races that maybe there's a chance we haven't seen the best of him yet? Almost surely we haven't seen the best of him yet. And with the right kind of trip, he could arrive on the scene at a big price as things go on.
Seasoning is an interesting topic, right? Because to me, seasoning only matters if it matters. Right? If you end up getting a nice trip, you sit around there and you get that kind of Todd Pletcher trip we talk about, which is also kind of like the Brad Cox trip as well, 2 or 3 wide all the way around there with no stone in your way. Who cares if you got seasoning? It's not something I'm overly concerned with, especially if I'm getting 16-1.
And is that the type of trip you see for him? You see him being forward in an attacking position throughout that? That's where you want him to be?
Yeah, definitely see him in the front half, not the back half.
And in terms of the price you're expecting on the day, how low would you go?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a horse that I'm going to use in multi-race wagers for sure. Look, I think at this point, Fierceness and Sierra Leone are obviously the most likely winners of the race, but I do think Just a Touch is the type of horse that definitely needs to be involved. I mean, look, I would, it depends on the price of the other horses. You know, I would think maybe 12-1 somewhere in that arena would make sense for me from a win standpoint.
I want to talk about my first of the horses here that we're going to be looking at for the show. And this is one that probably is a little bit more, as you were alluding to, JK, a more for underneath type, as opposed to one who's a definite winner, though I definitely will be covering him on the top spot as well. And I'm speaking about Honor Marie. We had Sean Borman on for one of our mini pods that's going to end up being part of our monster pod. And he sort of made the case better than I could as it pertains to this horse. And it really had to do with 2 separate things. I'm curious to see if you're going to buy the argument here when it comes to Honor Marie. Part of it was the way this horse seems to be improving, getting better, running faster at every stage of the race the last day. And the other of it is the way that Honor Marie finishes off his races. This is a horse who has a real closing kick, has just been getting better seemingly every start, and then also has the nice added little bit of value of having already shown a positive race under the Twin Spires. Look, horses for courses is a thing. It's not the only thing when it comes to studying form and studying horses, but as Sean memorably said in his video, and you can find all of those here on the In the Money channel, by the way, you'd rather have a horse that's succeeded over the course than not, as far as that goes. Are you buying it when it comes to this case for Honor Marie in this year's Kentucky Derby?
I am. It's pretty simple for me as well, right? Look, I'm not a cut in line to bet horses for courses type, but it is an important stat. Like Sean mentioned, the horse has won at Churchill Downs, and the horse is essentially past the 1.25 mile test by running a nice figure going 1 mile and 3/16 in the Louisiana Derby. So when the other horses are going to have to answer that question around the around the 8th pole, around the 16th pole, if they want to go that far. We think we know the answer for Honor Marie. We know the horse likes the track. I think he'll be finishing. I think if I had to pick one horse that wasn't the top two, that wasn't Fierceness or Sierra Leone to hit the superfecta, I got one. It would be Honor Marie.
That's high praise. And this is a horse that, unlike those others you mentioned, and even Just a Touch, I mean, we're seeing huge prices internationally right now with Honor Marie. This is a 33-1 shot, and one that I think, you can really make a case for. I think back to Frank McGoey on the In the Money airwaves before his first start of the year, talking about him as one who was notably unfit at that point and just been rounding into form. We'll have a chance to talk to Frank on another one of our mini pods that's part of our monster pod that you're going to see on these airwaves before too long. And I would also encourage folks, honestly, if you want to mess around with Honor Marie, I like the idea of playing him with those at the top of the market. But the first two long shots we mentioned, JK, I wouldn't be surprised at all, personally, to see a Just a Touch Honor Marie exacta, or at least two of those three in the trifecta or superfecta come Kentucky Derby Day. Let's move on to the third horse and final horse we're going to talk about on this video, Jonathan. I want to hear this case. You tell us who we're talking about, and then I'll make my cynical observation, and then you can take it from there.
Well, I'll say the horse. You make the observation, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. I like Endlessly a little bit here. Look, like I said, at the top, Just a Touch feels like one that can win the race. Honor Marie and Endlessly feel like horses that can pick up pieces. I like Endlessly to pick up some pieces.
Here's my fear with Endlessly. There aren't many bigger fans of trainer Michael McCarthy than me. I love this horse on the tape. I look at this pedigree. Yes, I mean, I'm not saying the horse can't be a dirt horse, but I love the pedigree for the green stuff, for the turf. And, he has owners that have been in the game a long time. They've done some great things. They haven't had a Derby runner. I worry this might be a case of the owners wanting to have the amazing experience that is running in the Kentucky Derby, as opposed to the trainer saying, hey, this is definitely where I want to run this horse. And as we've talked about many times in the show, it does work once in a while, the old owner pick the spot game. But generally speaking, for me, JK, it's an angle I want to bet against rather than bet on. Why am I wrong?
Well, for me, it's one of those situations where I trust Michael McCarthy, and he is a great trainer because he can take adverse situations and turn them into positive. So if it is an owner pick the spot situation, I trust that Michael can somehow navigate that and do what's best and find the best way for Endlessly to run well. Also, I think the turf horses means one thing, and that's stamina. Right. And we've seen that in the past. We saw it with Dullahan, with Patio Prado, with Animal Kingdom, who ultimately was a very good all surface horse, but was also a good turf horse. I think that what comes with some of those turf pedigrees is stamina. And when this 1.25 mile race happens, that's what we count on for horses to be finishing their races. Look, I said, I don't think Endlessly is going to be getting his picture taken by any means, but I do think he's the type of horse that you can use underneath to pick up some pieces in a fourth or a third while the others are stopping.
You make a great case, and those historical examples you use are making me think twice about this one. Hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to Michael on these airwaves before too long and get his take. He can he'll tell it to you straight as far as what he thinks the horse's chances are. And again, that's somebody that I am inclined to trust when it comes to all things related to where he spots his horses. If you want to see that interview, if you want to see all the interviews we've done so far as part of our mini pods, as part of our top 10 series, you got to make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the In the Money Media channel on YouTube. Click the notification bell, and also leave us some comments. Who are your long shots that you want to see on your tickets in this Kentucky Derby? Give us your comments on ours. Are we out to lunch with these ideas of Honor Marie and Endlessly and Just a Touch, or are we on the right track? Leave it in the comments. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to be back with a lot more really soon. But until the next time, may you win all your photos.